I've gone into so much argument with people about what is a JRPG. To me, it's the same argument as people who say that Black Myth Wukong isn't a Souls-like. If it looks like a duck, it talks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yep, or a very good mockingbird.
Yeah. Well, the exact pinpointed conversation I had, and this was on a video I made on YouTube a little while ago, was that people got really annoyed at me for saying that Honkai Star Rail was a JRPG. But in the same video, I mentioned Sea of Stars. I think it was a video to recommending or not recommending JRPGs to beginners of people who hadn't played that kind of genre before. And they got really angry with me, saying that Honkai Star Rail isn't a JRPG because it's Chinese, it's not Japanese. I was like, okay, Sea of Stars is Canadian.
Yep.
But you haven't got a problem with that. So where's the distinction?
Welcome to another episode of Side Quests and Save Points, the podcast where we celebrate RPGs, MMOs, and the side quests we swore we wouldn't get distracted by, but absolutely did anyway. I'm your host, Chef Monkey, and today's episode comes with max stats and a very questionable gear loadout. Joining me today is the one and only Joesephyr, content creator, Monster Hunter veteran, RPG fanatic, and most recently a freshly minted Pokémon trainer.
Apparently.
That's right. He is now discovering the joys of catching them all, which means he's in that magical place where every Ratata feels like a raid boss and the rest of us is still trying to figure out what type matchup beats Fairy. Adding a love for TCGs, a seat on the Final Fantasy 16 media tour, and enough RPG knowledge to make in-game scholars seem redundant. Not to mention probably more sass than tutorial NPCs. You know this is going to be a fun one. Welcome to your save point. Grab your drink, get comfortable, and let's begin today's side quest. Welcome in. How are you doing today?
Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, it was just quite the introduction, by the way.
Yep. I got that last time as well. Hopefully I can keep it rolling. It's quite difficult to come up with this stuff.
It sounded good. Keep it going. Love it.
So, I guess let's start off with the obvious. New to Pokemon. Is that new to the games or did you watch the cartoons growing up?
Honestly, so the Pokemon thing is kind of wild. I didn't grow up with a Game Boy or anything like that. So I'm of the age where the Pokemon craze first kicked off.
Yes.
But I didn't play my first Pokemon game until I was 19, I think. So Pokemon Platinum, I believe, was my first one, which I still have on my shelf over there. Content creation for Pokemon kind of came out of nowhere for me. I, up until very recently, was very much well known as a Final Fantasy and RPG creator, somebody who has sort of different insights on RPGs because I have worked in the industry alongside RPGs, because once upon a time I actually worked for Square Enix as a community manager. I have a lot of experience with their mobile titles, like Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia was the game I was most well known for at the time. And so, as things sort of changed and times changed and we came out of COVID, etc., things sort of, you have to go with the flow. I have, as you say, I have a history with TCGs and such. And so the Pokemon TCG Pocket game came out October, I think, 24. And I thought, all right, I've never done TikTok before. I've never done that kind of coverage before, but I used to do coverage for the Final Fantasy trading card game. So I thought, oh, well, maybe I can kind of put the different facets of my knowledge together. And yeah, it kind of blew up. And then I realized I'm not nearly as knowledgeable about Pokemon as I am about other RPGs. Although, weirdly, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but people get really funny about calling Pokemon a JRPG when last I checked, it absolutely is one.
Yep. That is something that I will be covering quite in depth in our next episode, but we'll get onto that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. No, I've got quite the opportunity coming up. So
excellent.
But yeah, no, I completely agree. It is an RPG. It is Japanese, therefore it is a JRPG.
I've gone into so much argument with people about what is a JRPG. To me, it's the same argument as people who say that Black Myth Wukong isn't a Souls-like. If it looks like a duck, it talks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yep, or a very good mockingbird.
Yeah. Well, the exact pinpointed conversation I had, and this was on a video I made on YouTube a little while ago, was that people got really annoyed at me for saying that Honkai Star Rail was a JRPG. But in the same video, I mentioned Sea of Stars. I think it was a video to recommending or not recommending JRPGs to beginners of people who hadn't played that kind of genre before. And they got really angry with me saying that Honkai Star Rail isn't a JRPG because it's Chinese, it's not Japanese. I was like, okay, Sea of Stars is Canadian.
Yep.
But you haven't got a problem with that. So where's the distinction?
Yeah, there's quite a few that still known as JRPGs, even though they're not out of Japan. I think these days, I think it shouldn't be used exclusively as RPGs out of Japan. I think JRPGs is its own genre within the RPG.
I think that the idea of genre is for the purposes of classification. So, for example, if I'd not met somebody before and they tell me they like Final Fantasy X, I can then go, this person will probably like Dragon Quest VIII because it is a similar style of game.
Yes.
But then the argument then comes, but then Final Fantasy 16 is nothing like Final Fantasy X. So would they still like it? So it's a very nuanced conversation that I don't know. Like it's the whole idea of genre, I think, has been turned on its head. And I actually think the term JRPG is a bit outdated.
Yeah,
in its own way.
Because I wouldn't class 16 as a JRPG, I'd class it as an ARPG, because that's what it is.
But then how different are those things, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's...
What do you think Kingdom Hearts is?
ARPG.
You were going to say JRPG.
I was, but you made me think about it.
You were going to say JRPG, but it's more action-heavy than FF16 is.
Yep.
It's got platforming in it.
So
that's
bizarre.
What I mean. Like, these distinctions don't actually make any sense.
I suppose it's the same as music, because there is a subgenre of metal called Viking metal. But it'd be the same argument saying, well, that's not Viking metal, they're not real Vikings.
Yeah, it's like, it's the feel, the image that it conjures, I think, is what the classifications are supposed to mean, but I don't think that's what most people take them as now. But yeah, so like with Pokemon being a JRPG, I don't understand how people can not think it's one, because people will say, but it's a monster collector, but then they'll say Dragon Quest Monsters is a JRPG. It's like, they're literally the same thing.
There's another one. Is it Monster Quest, I want to say?
I don't know that one off the top of my head.
It's quite an old one. Let me pull it up.
I mean, monster collectors have been in RPGs for eons anyway. Like Dragon Quest 5 or 3 even has Monster Collection in it. Although, well, the HD2D version of Dragon Quest 3 has it. I think that's to bring it in line with the spin-off series. But I love Dragon Quest. I actually played Dragon Quest Monsters long before I played Pokemon.
Fair enough.
On an emulator, because I wanted to try Dragon Quest Monsters, and I actually still love that game to this day. And I'm very, very sad that we never got Terry's Wonderland over in the...
Yeah, I can't see the name of this from a quick Google, so if I find it, I'll put a link in the description. It is like you're talking SNES old. It's like 16-bit kind of deal. But yeah, so which games have you actually currently played through? I know you've just completed it.
Pokemon?
Is it Crystal you've just completed on stream, isn't it?
The only Pokemon games I hadn't played up until this point, at least in the what you'd call the mainline series, I guess, are the first 3 generations. But I played Pokemon Red last year, and I've just finished Pokemon Crystal, and I have a copy of Emerald that I'm going to play next. And then, like, I can't say I don't know Pokemon, because I do, but I don't have the same heritage and nostalgia for it that a lot of people do, which I think gives me quite a unique
perspective
outlook on it.
Yeah.
Because I say that. I played through Generations 1 and 2, and I had a really good time. Like, these games are 20 to 30 years old.
And
they still work well.
As far as the community is concerned on a whole, I still believe that Gen 2 comes out as being the best gen in public opinion.
I like Gen 1 more than 2.
See, I think a lot of people like Gen 2 more than Gen 1, purely because the fact that Gen 1 was included in Gen 2. It's the only... Ish. It's still the only game, as far as I can recall, that you get to visit 2 locations.
But I think that, I mean, I did, when I played through it, I sat there and I thought, when people were kids, their minds must have been blown by this. But I'm a mid-30-something-year-old man, so I'm sitting there playing it going, okay, this has taken an hour. Like, what's the big deal? So I'm like, maybe there's an element of being jaded about it, but I definitely respected how big a deal that was. Certainly at the time, because there's so much put into that little cartridge. And I think that's true with a lot of RPGs, even outside of Pokemon. Like, you look at some of the Final Fantasy games, like on the Super Nintendo, or even the NES or the Game Boy. There's so much packed into those little cartridges. It's really extraordinary.
Golden Sun's another one where they love that game so much, but they had to split it into 2 games because they couldn't fit everything they wanted to in the first cartridge.
Yeah, no, I loved it. Lost Age. We don't talk about Dark Dawn. I mean, I say that. I don't think Dark Dawn was that bad.
No, but it just
It
didn't.
wasn't as good as the other two, but it wasn't
Yeah.
that bad.
I think if again, it comes with the problem of releasing a game tied to an IP. If they'd released that, like changed everything, like the names and all that sort of stuff, and released it as its own IP and its own standalone game, I think it would have done better than being tied to the Golden Sun name.
Yeah. Well, do I agree with that? Because they do try and bring in characters from the first two.
Yeah, but
I suppose they didn't need to do that.
Mm.
Yeah, no, do you know what? Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah.
It's not the first game that's done that, and it won't be the last.
It's one of many, many games I would like to see come back in with the HD 2D treatment, because I think every game should be made that way. Like, after Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, Dragon Quest III Remake, all of it, I just sat around like, every game should be made like this. If they ever remake Final Fantasy VI, I don't want an FF7 remake treatment. I want that.
Yeah, even with the pixel remasters have still been a massive upgrade to what they were previously.
Yeah. People really don't like the pixel remasters though, because of the fact that they're missing the content from the GBA versions, which I get, because I don't understand why you would just decide to cut them back out.
Yep.
So I do understand that. We hate it when so many of these games will release definitive versions of these games, but they're not
definitive.
They're missing stuff from the previous one. It's like, okay, but they're not definitive because the other one still has stuff that this one doesn't have.
Yes.
So could we not have brought that in as well? But it is what it is. Still loved it.
Yeah. I think it's... What am I trying to say here? It's a lot different with those as well, because you've obviously got the 3D remakes as well.
What, for 3 and 4?
For 3 and 4.
I definitely had a much more fond appreciation of 3 with the pixel remasters, because I personally think that 3 is the weakest Final Fantasy, not 2. A lot of people think that 2 is the weakest Final Fantasy, but I think
enjoyed
it's 2. So
I really enjoyed
like
2.
2. It's obnoxious, it's busted as heck, but I like 2 for the same reason I like 8, because of those things. I like the fact that I can break the game in half if I want to, but 3 just doesn't have a lot of leeway in the things that you can really explore. 90% of the jobs don't do anything. And it's, people like to talk about linearity being a bad thing in video games, but 3 felt linear more than even like 10 and 13 did. To me.
Yeah. And let's be honest, Final Fantasy VIII, the main story quest was actually Zell's quest for hot dogs.
Right. No, I could tell you so much about Final Fantasy VIII now, because I do a lot of work with Final Fantasy Union.
Yes.
If anyone has watched their recent video on the complete timeline of Final Fantasy VIII, I edited that video, all of those videos. So honestly, you could probably ask me about any character in that game's like birthmarks, and I'd be able to tell you what they were.
I saw a funny meme, and I'm sure you've seen it, diving into Final Fantasy stuff about Selfie, inventing the selfie before selfies existed.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I think I might have seen that.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with memes, though. I'm like the worst. People will tell me a really, really popular meme, and I'm like, what? Again, old man. But I think that 8 has had a real renaissance in people saying that they really enjoy it. Although I feel like there are a lot of Final Fantasies that come in and out of vogue as to whether it's cool to hate them or cool to love them.
Yeah.
7, 8, and 9 seem to go in this weird cyclical pattern where, like a rock, paper, scissors thing, where it's cool to hate 7, but cool to love 9. But no, too many people love 9 now, so now we love 8.
You're not wrong.
And now 8's gotten too popular, so now we've cycled back to 7 again. And I'm like, can you not just like them all? They're all good.
I haven't found a single Final Fantasy I haven't enjoyed.
I have.
I haven't played them all. But out of the ones I have played, I haven't found one I haven't actually enjoyed yet. I would say the one that I've enjoyed the least, and albeit I still haven't completed it, is World of.
Well, yeah, World. People love it, and they're allowed to.
I would like it a bit more if it wasn't for the annoying voice that's helping you along the way. Armor.
Well, I mean, Lan doesn't help either.
No, but...
You want grindy? Oh, good God, it's grindy. It also doesn't explain its mechanics very well.
No.
I think there's a lot of positive things to have about World. It is very charming, and the way that the legacy characters are introduced is really good. The mini games are the worst I've ever played in a Final Fantasy. If anyone's ever done the Tidus Riding on Valor 4 Blitzball minigame that is broken and not in a good way, you'll know what I'm talking about. Like, the mini games in that game just don't work.
No.
But yeah, no, World is one of my least favorites. I've still finished it. I've still platinum trophied it, which is terrible. But I'm trying to think of a Final Fantasy I didn't. Oh, actually, yeah, no, I can think of one, and this is possibly a really hot take. Dawn Trail.
I can see that.
I really slogged through Dawn Trail, and
I think
I haven't played 14 since I finished Dawn Trail's MSQ.
Yeah, so I had pretty much the same conversation with Rin, and he said the thing that he didn't like about Dawn Trail the most, and I'll take his word on the timing for this because I haven't timed it. He said on average it takes 3 hours to get into your first combat if you don't go and seek some out.
I am getting tired with modern RPGs, and this isn't just restricted to Final Fantasy, but a lot of games fall into this trap. If I wanted a movie, I'd watch one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel that not enough games, certainly RPGs, I don't think enough of them use the media of video games to tell their stories well enough. Like, maybe this is weird as a JRPG fan, but the more you onslaught me with cutscenes, reams of dialogue, the quicker I am to check out of it. When you look back at your Chrono Triggers, your Final Fantasy VIs, the real classic RPGs, except maybe Sellers' opera scene, not one cutscene in those games is longer than 5 minutes long. You are playing a game still, and they can still tell a magnificent story despite not needing to have exposition that lasts half an hour on every cutscene. And I think as time has gone on, I blame Metal Gear Solid for this. I think as time has gone on, people have latched onto these cutscene movies so much, whereas I am somebody that's very keen on game mechanics and progression systems and how the characters interact through a gameplay perspective and how the story is told without being told, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Games that spring to mind are like BioShock, Journey, games that tell you a story without barking it at you. And Dawn Trail, I think, went so far in the other direction where the game was 85% cutscene, 15% game, to the point where I got to the end of the story and I'm like, I just don't want to play this now. Like, and that's ironically the bit where the game opens up and you're supposed to go out and do your raids, do your extreme trials and stuff like that. But by that point, I just stopped caring. I don't think it's anything to do with the writing or, a lot of people threw a lot of hate at like the voice acting and stuff like that. And I think that was completely unnecessary.
100%.
It's just the way the game is paced was just wrong on every level. You compare that to Shadowbringers, and that had a balance that worked. It was still cutscene heavy, but it didn't feel like...
But the cutscenes made you give a shit in that one.
They were impactful. I don't want to eat Grahatir eating a burger. I don't care. But a lot of people do. And the vocal minority does. So I do understand why it's gone in that direction. I just think it's gone too far in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a similar boat. I stopped playing after the MSQ completed. Came back for the nostalgia hit with the Echoes of Vana'diel raid. I'm now waiting for the next set.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's kind of a bad thing when you're paying a recurring subscription.
Yeah.
I think to walk away from a game is a good thing, because to quote like the classic cliche, you don't know how much you like something till it's not there.
Yeah. I mean, when I play games, I tend to go in like phases. And like, I will go through a Final Fantasy 14 phase where I just play it every single day and I'm doing everything under the sun.
Yeah, and I fully expect that will come back to me again at some point. It's just not there right now, and I'm exploring other things. Like Monster Hunter, as you said, Monster Hunter is actually a very good example of what I'm talking about, because it's very gameplay focused and has, okay, I won't call it a JRPG, but it has a lot of the same qualities that someone who likes JRPGs would enjoy.
Yeah, but at the same,
it's more focused on just the gameplay, the challenge. Like when I think of classic JRPGs like FF10, my favorite memory is like the Dark Aeons, the super bosses.
Yes.
Challenge me. Give me a reason to be powerful.
But yeah, that's what I like about Monster Hunter as well. There's not cutscenes for the sake of cutscenes. I mean,
Wilds, there is a bit.
Yeah, like if they want to show off the characters, they'll put in a cutscene, but a lot of it is voice dialogue in gameplay mode.
Yeah. And I wish that we had more of that as well. And I think that like, I know I keep using FF6 as the example here because I genuinely think it's the best.
It's a good example. Keep using it.
So many of the story beats are done in combat scenarios, like when General Leo's like trying to fend off Kefka, or when Terra's up with Valagamandah. You know, there's all those little bits, but they're all done in gameplay-esque scenarios. So it kind of just merges the medium together. And I really like that. And I think that that's been lost a little bit.
So what would you say outside of Final Fantasy? Let's just go for like peak era for RPGs.
Okay. PS1.
PS1. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit more biased to Gen... I don't know if we can even call it Gen 2, but PlayStation 2, because I am so biased towards Dark Cloud, but you know that we've had that conversation before.
Dark Cloud, Dark Chronicle, I love them too. Yep. I do. But my favourite... Yeah, go on.
And I don't know if you've played this one, but the Jade Cocoon series, Jade Cocoon 2.
Oh my God, I haven't heard that name in years. Yep. Jade Cocoon. I only ever played the first one, which was PS1.
Yes, it was. The second one was PS1.
I played the first one. That is the one where you merge the monsters together and you breed them and they come out looking like weird amorphous blobs. Yep. My brother was obsessed with that when we were kids.
Yeah, it was Pokemon before Pokemon. I say that. I don't know if it actually came out before, but it was definitely around the same time. Jade Cocoon.
I'm curious now. This is going to age me really badly.
No, it was after 88. 1998 for the original.
98. So, oh God, I would have been 10 years old when that game came out.
Same.
Crikey.
Same.
I didn't realise we were the same age. Fair enough. 88 babies.
It's the way.
So you could tell that we're the era of RPGs we grew up with then.
This is one thing I did not know about it, just giving it a quick Google. It was developed by Genki in collaboration with Katsuya Kondo, who is the character designer for Studio Ghibli.
That's cool. Little factoid.
One of the character designers.
Love it. Because I think that the most underrated... See, this is another one. I say it's underrated, and then I'll say it, and people are like, no, it's not. It's overrated. Vagrant Story.
Yeah.
Not enough people talk about that game.
Not enough people talk about that game. It didn't go under the radar because it is a well-known title, but it doesn't... It's underrated in the appreciation that it gets mainstream.
See, I find it's the opposite. Whenever I bring it up when I'm like on stream or in videos, people go, what's that? But anyone who I know who has heard of it thinks it's the best thing that's ever been made. And they're correct. So I have the opposite problem. But writing-wise, I think the Ivalice storylines are the best ones. And Vagrant Story is like an offshoot of that because it's the same team that wrote it. It's the same art developers. It's the same team behind the entire thing. Those guys write Shakespeare. I mean, in Vagrant Story, they do it literally because Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are in it.
Yeah.
So. But you can tell where they get their classical inspirations from, and I really do value that because it feels more grounded. Like it's all political intrigue. It's I don't know, Game of Thrones before it went off the rails.
Yes, but that's what I do like about Square Enix's games in general, specifically the Final Fantasy ones, is they take a lot of their inspiration from real-world lore, real-world mythology, and then they just put their own twist on it.
No, I do. I think
Obviously,
so too. But
Odin is from Norse mythology, but Odin in Final Fantasy is not Norse, even though it shares a lot of the same traits. They've made it their own, but still...
Yeah. Well, I mean, they draw all of their inspirations from all pantheons, don't they? So when you think of Ifrit, Shiva, Rama, that's all Hindu mythology. Bahamut as well. Bahamut's originally a fish. Bahamut's not a dragon, it's a fish.
So that just makes the jump from Magikarp to Gyarados.
Sure. I think that's meant to be like Japanese koi fish things. But again, I'm new with the Pokemon lore. Things go over my head with Pokemon that don't with FF.
Yeah, I don't think Pokemon lore is... Obviously, they're based on certain things, but I don't think it's as in-depth as Final Fantasy by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm sure fan theories run wild.
I mean, so when it comes to lore diving, and things like that. I think that there are a lot of places for it, and JRPG fans as a whole love to do it, and I understand it. But I am a huge Alice in Wonderland fan, and this is relevant, I promise. Huge Wonderland fan. And the reason I've gravitated so much towards that particular world is Alice in Wonderland is one of the most revered scriptures in history, and it makes no sense. Like, it was written by a guy who was very high on opium the entire time,
What gave that away?
and nothing in it makes sense. It's not supposed to, but people cannot help but try and explain everything about it. So the riddle, why is a raven like a writing desk? It doesn't have an answer. It's written for no reason. But people have dedicated their entire lives to trying to work out why is a raven like a writing desk. And the same is true when it comes to video game stuff.
100%.
Like JRPGs. People will look for butterfly effects where there are none. Which is why I've come to sort of, I used to be that guy. I mean, I was a Kingdom Hearts fan once. We all did it.
Yeah.
We've all been there. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten to a point now where I'm like, just let it be what it is. And when things start to come out, like certainly with the FF7 remake trilogy, like a breeze has gone past Aerith's left ear, that means the world's going to end. It gets to that point. I'm like, or we could just wait till part 3 comes out
and find out what everything actually is. Yeah.
So that's where I'm at when it comes to story basis, with not just Final Fantasy or JRPGs, but video games in general. But I'm sure people will tell me that I'm being vapid and, it's only skin deep, but I have reasons behind it.
Yeah. So, speaking of remakes, there has been rumors for quite a long time that 9 is getting not the same treatment as 7, but like an upscaled version of the game.
If it ever happens, I will burst into tears.
Like everyone was pointing fingers at Alexandria being included in Dawn Trail as signs for things to come. A lot of people are pointing fingers to, I've got to get this right because there are 2 of them and I need to make sure it's the right one. The graphical mod on 9 that's been done. Yep, that one, as it's been done as a concept. People are saying that has generated a lot of noise.
The Memoria project.
Yes, that one.
That's the one you're talking about.
Memoria project.
Yep.
And then, obviously, like you said, the other one that is just a mod for the Steam game, but the Memoria project seems to have generated a lot of hype around it. Do you think things like that, obviously treading carefully on copyright infringement, all that sort of stuff, but do you think that helps developers know what their audience actually want, and do they actually listen?
It's hard to say because I think that there is no black and white answer to that. I think certain developers will see these things, certain ones won't. Certain developers will see it as a boon for them, certain ones will see it as a detractor. I think that there's too many factors to really give an answer or any kind of conjecture to something like that, because everybody works differently.
Yes.
But I think that 9, even having rumors, I mean, don't give me hope like that. It's my favorite game.
Yep.
It's my favorite, one of my favorite games ever. And easily my favorite Final Fantasy. And I don't do reaction videos or anything like that, really. But if they ever announce that, you will see a grown man cry.
My only prayer, if they do it, is they stick with turn-based combat for that one.
Same. And they don't mess about with the story.
No.
Because I'm not a fan of what they've done with 7s.
I've yet to complete Rebirth. I've just got to Gorgana. No, I've just got out of Gorgana Jungle.
Okay. When you finish it, I would suggest not talking to me.
But yeah, so little known facts, but given your history with RPGs, you're probably one of the few people that seem to know this. Did you know that Final Fantasy IX was 2-player?
Yes.
Yeah.
I played it 2-player as a kid with my brother.
Yep. Man, so many people are surprised when I tell them that.
Yep, completely useless.
It was still good fun.
Didn't really do anything, but yeah, we still did it. But we were kids, it didn't have to be anything grandiose.
No.
It was just like, if I remember it rightly, it was you selected which characters were played by which person.
In battle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that was it. It was just 2-player combat.
Cute idea. Chuck it in there.
It worked.
Why not?
Stopped me and my brother arguing over who was playing because we were both playing, even though it was only one of us for the most part.
Yeah. No, it's the irony is my brother is not a Final Fantasy fan in the slightest, and then I obviously developed into a big one. So it went both ways. But no, I love 9. I love everything about 9. I think it has the best cast of characters. I think it has the purest form of what a JRPG represented at that point in time, and I would love to see it make a resurgence, because if it did well, it like if Final Fantasy 9 got the right amount of buzz behind it, if they ever did remake it and it sold well, it could put Final Fantasy back on the path that a lot of people want it to be on.
The fantasy path.
No, I mean the turn-based path.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, because 16 is pretty
Oh,
purely fantasy, but 16 is such a controversial game for Final Fantasy fans. I liked it.
Well, it
I
had,
didn't love it, but I liked it.
if I remember my facts correctly, it had Devil May Cry 5's combat director.
Yeah, but who also said, "Oh, it's the best combat mechanics I've ever made." I'm like, girl, you made Devil May Cry 3. Shut up and sit down.
But yeah, I believe there was also rumors. I don't know if it came to fruition. I haven't looked at this in quite a while, but they were going to make a Final Fantasy 9 anime, for lack of a better word, cartoon.
They did. They announced that a while ago, and no one's heard anything about it since. So my only assumption is that they're quietly sweeping it under the rug because it got cancelled.
That's the thing. When you say something like that to the people who love 9, we will not forget it until it materializes.
Exactly. But I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, I'd love to be wrong. I would love to
100%.
be wrong. But I'm also not sure. I never trust these, or I never used to trust these adaptations till Castlevania happened. Because my unsung love of video games is Castlevania, which I never get to talk about because no one ever cares. But the adaptation they did for that was flawless. I've got a little more hope now that they'd get it right than I would have done before having watched that.
Well, there's always Netflix as well. They seem to be picking up a lot of things and turning cancelled series into the series they were supposed to be. Don't get me wrong, they've missed a few times, but the ones they've hit on, they've hit out the park.
They've got a Devil May Cry one coming out.
They've got a Devil May Cry one. They're obviously responsible for the Seven Deadly Sins anime adaptation, but Lucifer obviously got cancelled, picked up by Netflix.
God, yeah.
Turned into what it should have been.
Yeah. I mean, I loved that show. I did love that.
Me and my wife are watching it at the moment, and we are, I want to say we're either at the end of season 1 or we're starting season 2.
Yeah. No, it's, see, I can't say anything because you're only halfway in it, and I've watched all of it, so I won't say a word, but it's good.
Yeah. Just jumping back to Final Fantasy 16, you were present for the media tour. Was that the whole media tour you were a part of, or was it certain dates?
Yes. Well, I got to preview the game at the Tower of London because there was this massive thing that they did for its release for like a preview, creators, press, that kind of thing, and we all got to go to that, and we played what ended up becoming the demo for Final Fantasy 16, like in the Tower of London, which is extremely extra, and I love it. But Yoshi P and Koji Fox came out, gave us like a speech on what we were going to expect and what we were going to do. And I had, it was a funny story, actually, because as I said, I used to work at Square Enix, but I didn't play 14 at the time.
Yep.
So I didn't know who Yoshi P was. So it turns out, apparently, at some point or another, I had been in a room with him and not known it, because I'm the kind of person that it's like, I can play the game when it becomes available. I've got plenty of time to do that. I'm going to get up and just say thank you to Yoshi P and Koji Fox for inviting me, for having us all here. And he said hello as if he knew me. And I'm like, oh, this is
awkward.
Strange. And then one of the staff members who I used to work with came and introduced me to him. And he's like, oh, I think we've seen each other before. But apparently he's very good with stuff like that. Like at fan fests and such, he like remembers people. I think you actually told me the story. Yeah. But he remembers people that he's only interacted with once. Like he very, very clearly cares about what he does. And it was an extraordinary thing to be a part of. And, the voice cast I've gotten to know very well over the course of the last few years. And they're very good at what they do. And we all went out to a drag show a couple of years ago.
Fair enough.
I ended up doing all their makeup because I used to be a makeup artist before I was in content creation. That was a fun night. So it was, it was just a really good time. It was just a really nice time. And, being able to play the game. And if you've played FF16 and you've played those opening 2 hours, you're like, oh my God.
Yep.
Like,
my ears, I want to say they won't get over. I enjoy it so much hearing a Sid that is Yorkshire.
Good old Ralph Ineson.
That's where I'm based now in Yorkshire. So it's weird hearing something in a video game that I hear in my everyday life.
Yeah. But those first 2 hours were absolutely phenomenal. And I walked away from that thinking, if this is what the rest of the game is like, this is something else. Of course, it wasn't. Yeah. No, I really, it was an extraordinary experience because I'd never been a part of anything like that before as a content creator. And, I was very lucky to be there. And, well, the other creators and we all went to a pub afterwards. And one of the things I'm most proud of as a person is I love talking to anyone and everybody. It's the thing I get the most joy from in life. So just getting everybody together for photographs, creators that I'd met from previous experiences, obviously the voice acting cast and staff from Square Enix, etc. Just having everybody all in the same place was just really lovely. It was just a nice culmination of the efforts I'd put in up to that point.
Leading on from the media tour, you obviously got to meet a lot of wonderful people. You said creators were there, voice cast were there. You said you all went out to a drag show recently. Was that the creators as well, just the cast?
There were some creators there with us, yeah. How that came about was Nina, who plays Benedicta in 16. She saw some of my work as an artist beforehand, because we also did a thing where they had a replica of Clive's sword, the Invictus, in the Tower of London, and we all did a photo shooty type thing with that. And I ended up talking to Nina about it, and I said, oh, I used to be a makeup artist. She's like, oh, would you do mine? We've got this event coming up. And I went, oh, what, the Slay Station, the drag show? Yeah, no, I'm going to that as well. So, well, do you want to meet up beforehand and do my makeup? And I was like, yeah, no, that'd be great. I could do that. So we met up and we did that, and then we get to the event, and before we all go into the show itself, and then people start asking, and then they're like, "Oh, did you do Nina's makeup? Can you do mine?" So it turns out that I'm sitting in this pub doing people's makeup. I'm like, okay, right, I should be getting paid for this. But it was fun. It was good fun. It was a really good night. I actually did my own makeup. I'll send you a picture of it and you can put it on the screen or what have you, where I was inspired by a fashion collection that was done in collaboration with FF16.
Yeah.
Where he was wearing a jacket that had blue and purple beading in the shape of lightning bolts to be Ramu. Essentially. So I painted a jacket to do that and then continued the lightning bolts onto my face and stuff like that, so that it was a costumey, fashiony thing. It was really good fun.
Yeah. So you said that you opted not to play the demo whilst it was there because you wanted to go.
Oh, no, I did play it. It's just when everyone ran off to go and play it, I thought, oh, I can do that in a second.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
I'm showing great gratitude for being there first.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So when everyone else was playing the demo, what sort of reactions were there coming out of that?
Tears. People were in tears. Because that opening is dynamic.
100%.
I sat there so when did the demo end? Scared of doing spoilers now in case people haven't played 16, but we're talking about the first couple of hours.
Yeah.
It's when Ifrit kills Phoenix is when it ends. So when that happens and you're like, he's just killed a child. I was sat there with my mouth open going, okay, this is new. And I wish it had kept that tone throughout the rest of the game, because I think that Annabella, Clive's mother,
yes,
could have been the best villain they've had in years.
I hated her so much.
So wasted in the rest of that game. Because you come out of that demo, those opening hours, you hate her. You actually hate her.
Yep.
And you want bad things to happen to her.
But
that is the hallmark of a good villain.
If I'm correct, it just ended her story ended in a cutscene.
Yeah. But it's I wasn't expecting to fight her.
No, but
I would have liked a little bit something more ceremonious than what happened. You don't see her for 70% of the game. And then she's kind of okay, oh, she's dead now. All right, moving on. You're like, oh, fair enough.
That's not exactly the same fate, and we'll circle back to Final Fantasy in a second, but it's just reminded me of World of Warcraft. So throughout the whole of Mists of Pandaria expansion, Garrosh is the big bad.
Right. I've never played WoW.
Yeah, so Garrosh is the big bad. He's leader of the Horde, and every little thing he does, he's making you hate him. Similar situation. He's the end boss of the expansion, and he escapes with his life, and then through a singular cutscene in the next expansion, he gets killed just in a cutscene with one of the other main characters, not the player character. You're not involved in his death in the slightest, and it's a very weak payoff to a very good villain.
No, that's a shame. That's a shame. I think that a lot of these stories are carried by the villains, though.
Yes.
I really do. It's why everyone loves 7, although I think they're kind of killing off Sephiroth without meaning to.
Yeah.
Hot take again, I don't think Crisis Core is very good.
That is one I have yet to play. It's on my list.
People love it. Don't take my word for it.
No, like I said, I have not found a Final Fantasy game I haven't enjoyed in some aspect.
I think that there are aspects of Crisis Core that are really good. Like, I think Zack is a great character.
Yes.
And I think that all of the parts that are from Final Fantasy VII are really good. Everything after 7 dilutes Sephiroth's character really badly. And I feel that because in 7, I liken Sephiroth to the alien, like from the Alien movies.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies. The power of those characters is when they're not on the screen, because you feel their presence even though they're not there. Sephiroth, certainly, you've played Remake,
yes,
not Rebirth.
Yes.
Sephiroth, I get why they had to do it, because you couldn't really sell Remake without Sephiroth, really. But him turning up within the first 5 minutes of the game, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
There's a power in lack of presence, but having a presence, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
When a character's presence is felt when they're not there, you know you've got a good character. You don't have... It comes back to the, like, shoving things down our throats thing again. It's like, you don't have to be on the screen all the time to feel powerful.
So I see what you're saying. They sort of did that. Again, not quite, because he was shown on screen. Is when Cloud was going through Midgar being chased by Sephiroth, who wasn't really there.
What, in Remake?
Yes.
I think that I understand why it's done that way, and I think that it's in order for new players to come in and go,
100%.
Right. I get it. I just don't like it.
No.
But I'm sure a lot of people do. So
but
I'm not valuing that from anybody else, but like that's my take on...
I think it would have had the same, if not more, impact if they did the same thing, but instead of seeing the character in full, you just saw the silhouette of the shadow or something like that, where you still don't show him on
like
character.
An imposing figure.
Yeah. So you don't see him on screen, but you see enough of the silhouette or shadow to know it was him.
I think that Sephiroth's iconography has pulled his character out from under the rug. If that makes sense. Because it's like, people want to see the long silver hair, the long sword, the big black trench coat. They want that image, because the image of him turning around and walking out of the fire of Nibelheim is like the image from Final Fantasy VII. So I'm like, I understand it. They want to shove that in as much as possible because it gets eyes on it. But as somebody who values storytelling in a different way, I don't vibe with it the same way. But then I really love Final Fantasy XII story, and a lot of people don't.
Love it.
I love
even if it is
story.
Star Wars.
Well, Star Wars is just 7 Samurai.
Yep.
So it's like you can have inspirations that
are
100%.
And you just put a wonderful image in my head of that scene that I was just talking about with Sephiroth chasing Cloud through Midgar and Rebirth, but the pixel generated Sephiroth coming out from 7.
Yeah, so you've not gotten far enough in Rebirth for me to explain the reason that Rebirth upset me as much as it has, but you will know why, because it's not related to Rebirth. I cannot stand the existence of Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis.
Okay.
Because there are things that are in that game that shouldn't be. They should be in the main game, if at all. And that's all I'll say on the matter, because otherwise I'm going into spoilers territory. But yeah, no, I love 12 story, and everyone hates that
I love
Vaughn
it.
is not the main character.
No, Balthier for the win.
Like, no, he's not. It's a different type of storytelling. He is the conduit for which the reader or the viewer is seeing the world.
Yeah,
The main character of Final Fantasy XII is Rabanastre.
Yeah, the actual city itself.
Yeah. Well, the continent. Rabanastre is the city. I can't remember
Ivalice. Dalmasca, yeah.
Dalmasca is the main character. And I love that kind of way which the story is told, because you have to think a little bit about what's going on outside of what you see. Vayne, I think, is a brilliant character because he's not actually evil. He just thinks he's doing the right thing. Well, he's evil at the end.
Yes. But that's what, like, you brought up a good point there about essentially Vaan being the narrator of the story, which is what he is. It's how it's portrayed at the start. But it has a very, even though the same could be said for Tidus, however you want to pronounce it, I'm not going to get into that argument now.
It's Tidus.
Even though it's the same situation, I feel that 12 is more immersive in doing it than 10 was.
I don't know about that. I think they're just different. Like, I think that 10 is a lot more character driven than 12, whereas 12 is a lot more setting driven.
Yes.
So I feel that they're different. They're done differently. And certainly with video games, when you're taking the role of a character, you want to follow the character. So I understand why people maybe grind against FF12, because it's not done that way. It's done differently. I just really like it. But again, it's like, because I like thinking about what's not on the screen.
Yes.
It all sort of like ties back into what I'm saying about Sephiroth, about what I'm saying about like cutscenes being too long-winded. I think we're at a point with RPGs where we're not encouraged to use our imaginations anymore. And I think that's true of all media, just because of the way that things have gone. It's the Marvel multiverse of it all. So like
you were saying, I think in 10 as well, everyone is like, oh, I'm Tidus. This is who I am. In 12, you are very much the party.
You're the onlooker. Yeah. Penelo is kind of a pointless character. I'll give him that. Although I think she could not have been, because she had a really good dynamic with Larsa, who is an important character, and they just didn't go anywhere with it. So I'm wondering if there was a lot of stuff there that should have been there but was cut.
That is, again, it has potential. I still need to replay 15 because I played it when it first released. And
yeah, I did too.
Chapter 5, where you go through the tunnel, that ended up being a very disappointing chapter. They put in a lot more extra content in future patches specifically for that chapter, because the feedback, as far as I'm aware, the reason why they did it is because the feedback they got for that chapter was they had to rush it to get the game out. So
15 had a very troubled development.
I'm missing a bunch of the story because I haven't replayed it since I completed it initially.
Royal Edition adds a lot to it, but it had a troubled development from the start. Arthur had a very tumultuous relationship with the company already at that point, from what I remember. Please don't quote me on this. And I know that there was a lot of stuff that was meant for 15 that never quite made it. Like, the DLC episodes didn't sell as well as they were supposed to, so they cancelled a lot of them. And the actual end of the game ended up in a book and not in the game. The Dawn of the Future, I think, is the name of the book, where the villain isn't Arden at all. Again, Arden could have been... I think Arden was a brilliant villain.
Yeah.
That just didn't
quite grasp it.
There. Yeah. Because it was like... Because a lot of people think that, like, oh, Kefka is the only villain that won. No. Arden won. He ruined the world just as much as Kefka did. Put the world into an apocalyptic state for 20 plus years, and while you're sitting in a crystal.
Yeah, that would count as winning.
Yeah. So, like, but he gets stopped and everything. In fact, if anything, he actually won because he got what he wanted in the end. But the story in the book goes a completely different direction. And 15 just feels disjointed. And, like, it's one of those games where you can tell it was troubled.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, because I do think it would have been really good. From a gameplay perspective, I think it's too easy, because it's hold circle to win, or whatever the attack button was.
I mean, I also love Kingsglaive. I thought that was a fantastic film.
I do not agree. I think it was I went and saw that at the cinema.
Okay, I didn't.
Like, before 15 came out, they did like a thing where they showed 15 footage, and and they played Kingslave on the cinema. It was like a one-time showing, and I bought tickets for it for my partner, now my husband, and me. He hates Final Fantasy. I don't know why he bothered coming. But we sat and we watched Kingslave, and it was okay. It was a very...
Okay, let's rephrase. It was a
film.
dramatic step up from The Spirits Within.
I have fond memories of Spirits Within.
So do I.
For the wrong reasons. I was in college, and I was with the first guy I had a crush on, and we watched that movie, and we got drunk and got waxed philosophical about life, about how the live stream is terrible. It's a bad film. It's a very bad film, but I have fond memories of it.
And that's where we're going to pause this side quest, a journey through some Pokemon chaos, some Final Fantasy debates, and trying to figure out what actually counts as a JRPG without stouting a full-on tavern brawl. But don't pack up just yet, our adventure's far from over. In part 2, we'll be diving into our favourite RPGs, some hidden gems you might have missed, and of course sharing a few opinions on the ever-divisive world of DLCs. So for now, we've reached our save point, we'll see you in part 2, and remember, every great adventure starts with a side quest.